time to start now. I've noticed there's one or two people joining still, but I think we better get going on this. So first of all, a big hello and welcome to the Sunderland Global Pharmacist Network. We've got 3 speakers from different countries going to cover different aspects of pharmacy. So it's going to be really interesting. We haven't really tried this before, and it's a real opportunity to share experiences and show how we're really interconnected in our world now, how we can do such things. So before we start, then, just to if you could switch off your cameras, please. So if you switch off your videos, and if you can keep your mics muted as well, and that's because then the person speaking will have the full screen. So that's great. And I think, and then what we'll do is we'll have questions. I think the best way to do this would be to have questions at the end. So we'll have the 3 speakers that are going to each give a short presentation, and then I'll invite questions where you could submit them through the chat function. Then I can read them out to the speakers. I think that might work. So so I'm going to introduce myself. I'm Paul Carter. I'm a lecturer at Sunderland School of Pharmacy, and I'm also chair of the Hope Winch Society, which was founded in 1984, and it's a society that connects with ex-students of pharmacy at Sunderland. So we keep in touch with graduates, and there's so many benefits in doing that. And every year we have a reunion, we send out newsletters, and we get involved with many different events with students. We also have the Hope Winch Benevolence Fund as well, which is a fund that we raise money for this fund, and the fund is there to assist students that struggle financially. So we're always open to contributions for that. So I studied at pharmacy at Sunderland, like my parents did too, and I think it's great, and I think we must be doing something right, because we've been going for 100 years, because it's our centenary year. And so this event is part of a sequence of events that I'm sure you've seen online. And it's such a privilege to be involved with the alumni network. I find when you meet graduates who have started their careers, I find that apart from being absolutely dedicated to the work, they're also so generous, and they really are willing to share their experiences, and that only enhances the profession in so many different ways. So, and that's what's happening today. So we've got 3 speakers from 3 different countries who are going to share their experiences. So we're going to have Kam Mo Lam, who is situated in Hong Kong at the Queen Mary Hospital, and Kam is an oncologist pharmacist working in a hospital. We're going to have Matthew Crum, who is researching at Pfizer in Melbourne, Australia. And we're going to have Mina Gurgis, who is a community pharmacist, business owner, who is in Ontario in Canada. So, okay then, so I think without further ado, can I invite Kam, please, to come forward and introduce yourself and tell us what's going on. Thanks, Kam.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you. Well, hello everybody. My name is Kam Mo. You can call me Kam as well because my first name is Kam, and some people call me Kamo. And well, I received my Master of Pharmacy and postgraduate diploma of Clinical Pharmacist from University of Sunderland in 2006 and 2010 respectively. And I start my career in UK after my graduations from University of Sunderland. I start my career as a community pharmacist at Boots the Chemist. And then after that, I moved to South Tyneside Hospital, which is around the University of Sunderland as well. And by the time I was a clinical pharmacist at South Tyneside Hospital, and after around I think 2 years, after 2 years, I then moved to another job, which is a promotion, and I've been an oncology senior pharmacist at Dudley Group of Hospitals, which is in Birmingham in the Midland. And then in 2011, I missed my family, and I've learned a lot in UK as well from community pharmacy, clinical pharmacies, or oncology pharmacy, everything. I like UK. I like UK. Is excellent. I learned a lot. People are very nice here, and I do, I love UK. But by the time I missed my family, and then I got a job offer as well in Hong Kong at Hospital Authority, Queen Mary Hospital. So in 2011, I moved back to Hong Kong, become a clinical pharmacist in Hong Kong. In my new, I continue my job until now. It's from 2011 until now. It's around 10 years now, isn't it? So in those 10 years, I've learned a lot as well, and I have keep on to develop in my career in Hong Kong. I did expose a lot of different kinds of things in Hong Kong. Well, the development in Hong Kong is good as well. The boss gave me opportunity to develop my Six Sigma Green Belt and management programs. And obviously in Hong Kong, we do have our specialty training as well. So by the time I received my advanced specialty, the board of advanced specialty program in oncology for Hong Kong pharmacists. Although I was an oncology pharmacist in the UK, but still need some training in Hong Kong as well. It's the official one. And in 2015, I got the exam from USA one, the Hong Kong culture. We do need a lot of examination, development, that kind of thing. So in 2015, I became the board certified specialist oncology pharmacist. The USA one is very difficult, and it's very difficult. And then since 2011, I got a good opportunity to do oncology pharmacist since 2011 until now. My interest of pharmacy service is oncology service is solid tumor normally, like or sarcoma as well, and palliative care as well. Pharmacy aseptic dispensing is another field of specialty I like, and I'm confident as well. Okay. And I have helped the Queen Mary Hospital Pharmacy to establish the clinical pharmacy oncology service. And by the time in 2011 I came back to Hong Kong, actually we did not have oncology pharmacy service. I got a good opportunity to help to develop this oncology service. And then I also helped the senior to for the forward planning in line with the PIC standards. and with hospital accreditation, that kind of thing. And I also managed to develop one of the new services in our hospital called Herceptin managed is for oncology pharmacists manage the Herceptin clinic, which is like the pharmacy to help the oncologists, the doctors, to help the oncologists because the oncologists in Hong Kong, they're very shortage, they're very busy, they got too much work and patients wait a long time. And so we do try to help the oncologists. So we do have some some pharmacy manage the clinic to help the oncologists. So what it means is like the doctor don't need to see the patient, but oncology instead of doctor to see the patients and then let them have their infusion. But because it's a newly start for us, so we only limit to the target therapy of the Herceptin treatment. Or Herceptin is just too small. Now they become biosimilar. Well, and then besides providing this pharmaceutical care service, I quite enjoy the pharmacy development in Hong Kong because it's a good opportunity because my boss, he is very active in the professional field to help the professional development. And then so I joined, he is the president of Society of Hospital Pharmacists of Hong Kong. So I'm one of his one his helper to help this pharmacy professional development. My title is kind of Director of Society of Hospital Pharmacists of Hong Kong. That's kind of title, but we do a group of people work together to help this kind of pharmacy professional development. My boss is my leader to doing this kind of work. So in SHP, like we call Society of Hospital Pharmacists, in SHP, I have joined the Hong Kong Pharmacy conference. I'm one of the committee members, and then to organize this pharmacy conference for all Hong Kong pharmacists. I'm also one of the committee member of Pharmacy Central Continuous Education Committee, which to encourage our colleague to do some continue professional education thing. Although it's not officially essential in Hong Kong now, but we do try to encourage our colleague to have some voluntary continue education. And then one of the things I like, and in SHP, I try to give some different talk to different people, like oncologists, the newly started oncologists, the doctors. I do help their society, the oncologists help their oncology societies to give the new doctors some talk, like the design of aseptic room and the treatment of extravasation, that kind of thing as well. I also give some talk to our pharmacy colleague as well, and give some talk to nurses as well, like the injection administration course, that kind of thing, in prospect of the pharmacy field. It doesn't mean like I'm good in kind of very knowledgeable, that kind of thing. It just share the pharmacy parts to the doctors or to the nurses, to share our experience. And also I enjoy giving talk to patients. I do try to give a lot of different talk to different group of patients, or particular oncology patients, and like cancer pain treatment. And I did give some other talk as well, like calcium, glucosamine, that kind of talk to some community organization, that kind of patients as well. So different kind of patient. I enjoyed it. I like it. I like giving different talk to different people. And then I do join some international conference as well. I've been to Budapest and to join the Oncology Pharmacy Practitioner conference. And then I went to Shanghai to do this Pacific conference, that kind of thing. In the local, I do some like hospital authority. We do have our own convention. I did join them to to give them some poster presentation, that kind of thing as well. I did invited by Macau Pharmacy Society to give some talk to them as well. We do have good relationship, well, locally or internationally or regionally. We do have a lot of linkage and sharing as well. And well, so I enjoyed it because some of the charity organization, they did give some recognition to me as well, like gives me some souvenir, that kind of thing. And recently, like recently, I have a lot of challenge from this kind of this continued educational point, and like the HOPA, the board certified oncology pharmacist, because after become a board certified oncology pharmacist, I need to be continue to do have to receive continued educational points, and to have lots of study and lots of money to pay. And well, something like this, I'm not sure if you can see the the HOPA from USA, and I need to do a lot of course, and well, each course only give around 1 hour or 2 hour educational point, but I need like 100 points, and the time is not too much. In 31st of June, I need to finish another 12 course module, and so I'm experiencing difficult time at the moment to finish my continued educational point. So this is the way we do in Hong Kong. So this is kind of thing I would like to share with you guys, and I hope you guys have a better picture about Hong Kong pharmacies, and about how I try to do my best to our pharmacy profession and for our patients as well. Okay, so thank you very much. Thank you.
Thanks, Kam. That was great. I mean, and clearly you're at the forefront. You were at the forefront of the oncology provision when you started, and you've grabbed as many opportunities as you can to develop the service. That was really good. Thanks very much. So yeah. So any questions we'll deal with at the end. So right. Well, without any hesitation, then we'll move straight on. So can I ask Matthew Crum, who's in Australia at the minute? Are you coming on?
Should be, Paul. Can you see me?
Yeah, that's it. Great. Thanks, Matthew.
Awesome. Thanks, Paul, and thanks to the Alumni Association for inviting me to participate in these centenary celebrations. It would have been fantastic to be back in Sunderland with you all to celebrate this milestone. However, with technology, I'm able to join you all from my home office here in Melbourne. So I graduated from Sunderland 11 years ago, and reflecting now for this talk, I was thinking back in 2010, I would never have imagined or dreamt that I'd be working as a medical science liaison at Pfizer, or even living in Melbourne, Australia. So how did I get here? I'll summarise over the next, say, 7 to 8 minutes, 3 main areas of the career to date. starting with my time at Sunderland and my pre-reg, kind of focusing why I decided to do a PhD, and then finally what I've done at Pfizer. So my plan starting pharmacy was to complete the degree and return home to the English county of Herefordshire, back when my parents were, to become the resident pharmacist running the local chemist. However, that somewhat changed through my time at Sunderland. One of those changes was in my final year, in fourth year, doing our MPharm project. I was very lucky to secure a pharmaceutical project with Professor Amal Ali El-Kordi. And we looked into a novel in situ lyophilization technique to enhance the dissolution of poorly water-soluble drugs. Amal's guidance, but also her passion for the science and the pharmaceutical subject, along with her curiosity for research, sparked, I think, the start of my career. Also in my final year at Sunderland, I was the SPSA president. And at the end of the year, around this time, or just, I think it was May, June time, so at the end of the final year exams, I was asked as the SPSA president to partake in the accreditation activities for the joint SEGI and Sunderland programme in Malaysia. And I understand now, Paul, you're going through an accreditation process at the moment, but this was my first exposure to international pharmacy and the opportunities that international pharmacy allows someone. So this was a paid work trip to Malaysia, and this got exciting. I was able to join a group of academics to go to Malaysia and work with what it was then the RPSGB for accreditation. And Paul Carter joined this trip with us, and he was my adjacent passenger on the flight, and hopefully I was a good passenger. But I can remember Paul examining a PhD thesis on the trip to Malaysia, and I can remember thinking, that's a lot of words. Why would I want to do something like that? But the rest is a bit of history. So at the end of my pharmacy degree, I completed a industry and hospital split pre-reg year. So the industry part was with AstraZeneca, and the hospital part was with the University of South Manchester. So my decision to complete an industry pre-reg was in part the difficulty in obtaining one. So back in 2010, there was about 15 industry split pre-reg spaces available for the 5,000 pharmacy graduates. Not sure what the numbers are today, but I still think it's quite competitive. And that's what I was excited about, the competitive process. So how I got that pre-reg was me going to different summer placements during my second and third years, summers, and working in different departments. Now I'll say, because I see that there's a number of students on this call, you don't need to do industry summer placements to get an industry pre-reg to end up in industry. There are other ways of getting into industry, but that was the route I went, and I'm just sharing my experiences. So why did I decide to undertake a PhD? So I have been contemplating doing a PhD during the end of my pharmacy degree and during my pre-reg, and it really came to the front of mind during my pre-reg part at AstraZeneca. Predominantly because in my team at the time, there was a large number of pharmacists working with me who held a pharmacy degree and a PhD. While I was looking above me in the senior leadership positions, a lot of those colleagues had PhDs in their title. I also realized that my laboratory skills weren't upon par compared to my counterparts who had done undergraduate degrees in chemistry or biochemistry. So I knew I had to get my laboratory skills up to par. But I think what the real reason was, I wasn't yet ready to enter the workplace, and I wanted to still be curious and keep learning. So with a similar mindset to when I chose my pre-reg placement, I decided not to take the easy route. I thought, if I'm going to be heading back to university for 4 years, let's make it interesting. And reflecting on those international pharmacy experiences I gained during university, I started looking overseas. At the time, I had 3 locations I could choose from: the US, Europe, or Australia. I decided the 6 to 8 year degree in the US to be too long. I can't speak a foreign language, so Europe was ruled out, leaving Australia as a potential location because it's got a similar education system to the UK. And even though I had never lived or traveled to Australia before, I thought I knew what Australia was like, watching plenty of episodes of Neighbours and Home and Away. So talking to colleagues at AstraZeneca, getting a list of professors, one professor's name stood out. This professor was an internationally well-renowned professor working in the field of lipid-based formulations. But what really took my interest was he was British, did a pharmacy degree at the University of Nottingham, a PhD in pharmaceutics at Nottingham, before moving to Melbourne as a postdoc, and then now, I think, being in Melbourne 25 years and getting into a professorship. And his name and my mentor and PhD supervisor, Professor Chris Porter. So Chris was keen to get me into this research group, and we started the process of getting me onto the program. So here in Australia, it's a bit different getting onto a PhD program compared to the UK, in that it's a competitive admission process where I, the student, need to apply and secure funding. And this funding process required the assistance from a number of Sunderland lecturers that I'd left Sunderland with some great relationships with. So Amal, once again, helped me with writing a manuscript of my MPharm project work and helping getting that published. And the late Professor Ros Anderson wrote me a fantastic personal reference, and I know that reference had a huge influence in securing that funding. So upon completing the PhD, I was offered a role at Pfizer on the Research and Development Graduate Programme. This graduate programme, the aim of it was to provide graduates with diverse and challenging cross-functional assignments across the drug development lifecycle. So I started off at the lab bench in an analyst role. I moved into a subject matter expert role in formulation, and ended up in a program management position, managing the introduction of a new liposomal development program into the manufacturing site here into Melbourne. At the end of the program, I was successful in securing an international 6-month assignment in the US. So that trip to Malaysia, me moving to Australia, I wanted to keep the international theme going. So I was able to secure funding and senior management agreement to do 6 months at 2 sites, one in, or 6 months in Lake Forest, Chicago, Illinois, and the Pfizer World headquarters in Manhattan, New York. So this international trip allowed me to work in a customer-centric innovation commercial team, and that team, its role, its purpose was to identify unmet needs of healthcare professionals and their patients within the hospital setting. And my role was to work with cross-functional team members to create and build business plans that we would present to our senior leaders to get buy-in or get the approval for us to bring projects into R&D. I was in my element. I could utilize my pharmacy background to engage with healthcare professionals alongside utilizing my pharmaceutical knowledge of drug development. At the end of those 6 months, I returned back to Australia and continued to work in that innovative product development field. An internal secondment role came up within our local Australian commercial team, and it sparked my interest and looked intriguing. It was a new, innovative, customer-facing role, engaging with general practitioners and practice nurses. I wasn't the typical candidate the hiring manager was expecting or looking for, but after demonstrating the transferable skills I had developed from my previous experiences, my pharmacy undergraduate training and my PhD, I had the opportunity to be innovative in a non-research and development role. When that project came to an end, I knew I wanted to keep engaging with my fellow healthcare professionals and discussing innovative medical science. That led me into my current role as a medical science liaison within the rare disease portfolio. So next week, I'll be celebrating my 5-year anniversary at Pfizer. If I had thought back 5 years ago in 2016, I would never have contemplated working in a research and development technical role because I had just come out of a technical PhD. And as I said at the start, back in 2010, I didn't even think that I'd be living in Melbourne, would have done a PhD or working in a rare disease portfolio. But what I can say and what I've learned is be passionate and be the best you can. Opportunities arise in the least likely of places, but staying positive and focused help reach your goals. And hopefully, and especially for the alumni on the call, hopefully you agree with me when I say to our future pharmacy profession and pharmacy students on the call is that there are so many possibilities with a pharmacy degree. And with that, I'll finish there. So thanks, Paul.
Right, thanks, Matthew. Well, yeah, that's the way to do it, isn't it? You grabbing the opportunities when they come along. I remember that trip to Malaysia. I remember that well. And yet, yes, you were very engaging, sitting next for how long was it? 10 hours or something on the airplane, something like that.
The red wine helped.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, and the other thing is, it's nice to know that Sunderland School of Pharmacy has had quite an influence on your career up to now, isn't it? So brilliant. Well, thanks, Matthew. That's really good. So we'll see you again soon for the question spot. Right, and can I ask Mina Gurgis to step forward, please? And Mina's currently in Canada, and I'm sure you'll tell you all about it. Okay, over to you, Mina.
Hey everybody, hey Paul, can you hear me? I'm guessing you can, yeah. My name is Mina Gurgis. I graduated with an MPharm in 2016, and compared to the other colleagues who spoke to you today, I'm still quite early in my career. So bearing that in mind, I'll maybe start with like the things that have driven me and kept me going, and then I'll go through how or why the university may have thought me a good candidate for this talk. Sorry. So the two things that I think I'd like you guys to bear in mind, or your take-home messages, would be work with integrity and write your goals down. I'll start right at the beginning. I graduated, like I said, from Sunderland in 2016. I worked really hard to start practicing in Canada. A lot quicker than many of my peers, and I started practicing the summer of 2017, so it took me about a year to complete my board exams, and I really pushed to network and to find locum shifts or find shifts anywhere I could when I was back in Canada, and worked really hard to do well, to make sure that patients were cared for properly and that my employers were also very happy with my work. I ended up working a shift at Jane and Finch. So to those who aren't in Canada, Jane and Finch is a very, very rough neighborhood. They're like, people get shot there on a weekly basis. It's a very, very rough area in Canada. So I got a shift there. The employer was really happy with my work, and he was like, hey, come back. Oh, I want you here like 2 days every week consistently. And for a 12-hour shift, that makes up most of your schedule. You're doing okay when you're able to work around 30 hours a week, and it's a big step towards working full time and being able to start a life. So I was working there for a bit, and my goals were to open up a pharmacy. That was my first goal in graduating, and I had written it down, was to open up a pharmacy. So within a few months of working for this gentleman, his name is Sam, I gave notice, and I decided to move to Northern Ontario to take a corporate job at Loblaws. It's a retail corporate job, as a stepping stone to open up my own pharmacy in Northern Ontario. I worked at Loblaws for, again, a few months, and I had done a few demographic analyses, and I was looking for a spot to open up my own pharmacy. And again, within a couple months of working at Loblaws, I get a call from Sam, and he tells me, hey, Mina, I have this amazing opportunity. to open up a pharmacy. Let's do it. And don't work for anyone else. Don't pay someone else's mortgage. If your goals are to open up your own place, it doesn't get better than this opportunity. He couldn't tell me anything about the opportunity. All he could tell me was, if I'm interested, I have to give notice from my stable current stepping stone job. He convinced me. I did it. I gave notice, and it turned out to be one of the better opportunities that someone can find. It was a 3-pharmacy deal. So we bought 3 established retail pharmacies in Northern Ontario. I manage 2 of them, and a partner manages another. And I'm fortunate enough to have a wife who's also a pharmacist, which has been an unbelievable support. She graduated from Sunderland in 2017, sorry. Yeah, I mean, every step of the way, writing your goals and working with integrity. If I hadn't worked with integrity for Sam, he would have never thought of me to open up a pharmacy or to work with him in the stores that we purchased. I think the other things that are important in terms of my role or my development in my career are, after taking over these stores, I'm currently a lead preceptor with the University of Waterloo, and I take on pharmacy students. I also work with the Northern Ontario School of Medicine right now, and I take on medical students, and I'm a Doctor of Pharmacy candidate at the University of Toronto, and I'm expecting to graduate in about a year. So these are all fun little things that I'm working towards. But I think that pretty much sums up my entire career in a couple minutes. Again, like I said, I graduated in 2016, so I'm still quite early into my career compared to some of my colleagues, but I look forward to any questions that you guys might have. And I do also want to say that I was very fortunate. The University of Sunderland did make a huge difference being able to graduate with an MPharm in Canada. At the time when I did graduate, a lot of my colleagues were starting practice with a bachelor's of pharmacy. So having that master's did put me in a little bit of a league on my own, or with other UK grads. So it did make finding work a bit easier. But yeah, I'll take a step back, and I guess I'll open it up to questions. Is that right, Paul?
Yeah, thanks, Mina. That was great. And again, clearly, all 3 of you, I mean, you're so, the message that's coming across, that you're so driven. You have these goals. You're grabbing the opportunities. You don't mess about, do you? You just go for it, and it's great. Okay, then, brilliant. So, can I ask the other 2 speakers to come online for your cameras and your mics, and we'll take some questions now. I've already had a couple of questions that I'd like to address to Kam. One was from Alison. She said, "What standards do you operate for your aseptic work?"
Sorry, I beg your pardon.
It's the what are what standards do you operate to for your
Okay.
for the aseptic work?
Well, in Hong Kong, in about 3 or 4 years before, our standard is now following PIC standard. PICS. PIC standard is kind of a Europe standard, and we do have 4 zone standard. In UK we have 3 zone, I think, but now they're doing 4 zone aseptic room, and well, the hardware, they're good. They it's kind of like near the manufacturing standard, the aseptic, so it's a 4 zone standard. And the hardware in Hong Kong is good, actually, but it's only limited to the hospital authority, like government hospitals. In the private hospital, they do not have this kind of standard yet. I think the government is planning forward to promote this kind of standard, but it's not become legal requirement yet. And so it's kind of our hospital, like government hospitals, to have some the in advance work doing it. And well, this is kind of, so that's the hardware what we're doing. But what I think is the software in UK is good, better than Hong Kong, I think, even, because, well, obviously the aseptic work is need like hardware and the software together. What I mean software is the staff training, the principle, the quality assurance, that kind of thing. You need a big group of people to believe this kind of work is good for patients, good for the porters. So it's still a long way to do in Hong Kong about this kind of standards, because what I think they're very keen to do this kind of hard work building. They put a lot of money in. Well, I think to build up a aseptic room is around how many? 1 million UK sterling pounds. 1 million, more than 1 million, around 1 to 1.5 million. Well, but what I see about the practice, why they do need a lot of work and a lot of inputs to meet the standards. Well, so UK still got a lot of things, to learn for people to learn. I say, to share experience. Yeah.
Right. Good. Yeah. And Colin wants to know how big's the hospital?
How big is the hospital? I think it's more than 1,000 beds.
Right.
In our hospital. Big is a very big, because in Hong Kong we divide into 7 districts, like 7 regions. So like my region is Hong Kong West cluster, where we got 7 clusters, and mine is in Hong Kong Island West cluster. So it's one of the 7 cluster, and I stay in the cluster, the biggest hospital, the general hospital, acute hospital. So so the hospital I work is a big hospital. It's actually I can say, well, it's because it got good linkage with the university as well. University of Hong Kong, University of Hong Kong, my hospital is. So well, it is kind of top 1 or top 2 hospital where I work in. So it's big. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So we're waiting for questions, and whilst we're waiting, I'll ask one, because you were all educated in the UK at Sunderland, and I really want to know, transitioning to another country, how equipped were you? And it's not really about the sort of the knowledge. It's more of the sort of professional side of it. Did you slot into the professional side of pharmacy quite easily, or did you have to work at it? Mina, can I ask you that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, I'll answer your question in 2, I guess, with 2 answers. So the first is in terms of like actually getting licensed or licensure. The process is the same for every pharmacist wherever you're coming from, even if you're a Canadian graduate. The only difference coming from anywhere else is there's something called an evaluating exam, which evaluates whether or not your degree is on par with a Canadian degree. And I think that the UK did a much better job than a lot of other international students coming and doing this exam with me. I call the exam like a lottery, because if Canada has lots of pharmacists, this exam is harder. If Canada has a few pharmacists and is in need of pharmacists, this exam is easier. But anything can come up on this exam. First year pharmaceutics can come up on this exam. So I found that that the information that we learned in Sunderland did a really good job of preparing me for that exam. In terms of being like walking into a pharmacy and practicing, I can see it with my current Canadian pharmacy students as well. I think it's a bit difficult for any pharmacy school to do that, and I think that Sunderland did do a good job, especially with like pushing the dispensing exam and making it like a higher threshold to pass, forcing students to really jump in, did a really good job. But I think one aspect that, and I know I really criticize the pharmacy schools in Canada as well, is pharmacy is a profession where you have to have pride in your profession. And I don't think a lot of schools teach that as much. And especially in pharmacy, where a lot of pharmacists joke, "Oh, I didn't make it as a doctor, so I became a pharmacist," which is a terrible, terrible mentality, because like we do a lot of really good work, and there's so much reason to be proud of our profession. I think in that sense, again, Sunderland does a good job. Every school can do better. But in terms of walking in as a professional, I think Sunderland did do a good job, especially from second year with the dispensing exam. It really, really made things easier. Have I answered your question, Paul?
Yeah. So, Matthew, have you got any comments? Did Sunderland, did the UK set you up for us? Is it suitable for Australia?
So similar to Canada, if I wanted to come and be a practicing pharmacist here in Australia, you would need to do the internship and the exam. So I didn't do that because I came over to do a PhD, and looking at the costs and the time involved, I didn't. But holistically, what I really loved about Sunderland was, I always call it the triangle: the university, the alumni body / student bodies, and the local community of pharmacy, and that kind of strong pyramid connection where the local community of pharmacists, many of them being ex-graduates from Sunderland, coming back to support the student body and supporting the local students and the students at Sunderland, and that evolving cycle of just supporting one another. Here in Australia, there are less pharmacy schools than in Australia. They are newer. Australia is a newer country. The Constitution was written in 1901, so potentially Sunderland's older than some places here in Australia. So it set me up well to come over here, and also with those connections, the international connections. I know I'm here. We've got professors in Sydney, Professor Paul Groundwater. Many on the call would know him. He's here in Sunderland. Sorry, he's in Sydney. But there are others around the world wherever I've travelled with work, or I've met up, say, in other parts. So even though I haven't used the pharmacy aspect per se to become a pharmacist in Australia, the community and that ethos of community has played well for me throughout the world.
Right, very good. And just a follow-up question, Matt. Just Alison Beanie is wondering about the opportunities for industrial pre-regs in the UK and I guess in Australia as well. Have you got any comments on that?
So I will say, in the UK, being biased, doing an industry split pre-reg, I want there to be more opportunities. But I will say to students and people thinking about industry, you don't need to do the industry pre-reg. So a lot of the industry pre-registration years are in formulation, R&D, pharmaceutical science. However, there's so many other opportunities in the industry, and sometimes it's better to have the clinical expertise or the clinical background in community or hospital pharmacy to go into access, go into pharmacovigilance, to go into drug safety, medical information, all these other more clinical roles, where for me doing a pharmaceutical PhD, I don't have that experience or technical knowledge to go into those roles. So if you're working in community or hospital, working in very clinical roles, there are roles in industry for you, and you can always then pivot, like I've done. I've gone from pharmaceutical research and development into a medical clinical science role. you could do the other way around. And I guess those are the great opportunities in industry, is you can weave your way around. In Australia, similar. The one thing I would say the UK is better is there are more industry opportunities. So there's more pharmaceutical companies in the UK. You've got Europe on the doorstep that you can just, I'm not sure now with Brexit and things how easy it is for travel, but you've got all that on your doorstep. Australia, we're on the other side of the world. We are a large continent, but we are limited in pharmaceutical companies. One, because of the distance, and also the cost for research, because it costs money to import and export. And because we're on the other side of the world, it's difficult compared to where the majority of our head office is. So in Pfizer, it's North America, and a lot of other pharma companies, it's either North America or Europe. So that's where most of the pharma is. But I would say not just large pharma, the new biotech is quite interesting as well. And that's happening across the world, also in Asia Pacific as well.
Right, yeah, thanks for that. That's quite good advice as well that you've given there. Right, Kam, we've got a question. So from Hay, it's Sunderland. You mentioned the standards building are in progress. Has the white paper been made, do you know, and does the bill have to pass through Parliament in Hong Kong?
You mean to be a registered pharmacist in Hong Kong?
I think these are the. I think it might be. Is it referring to the aseptic standards that you were talking about?
Oh, okay. Right. Well, as I say, there's no such kind of law or legal document at the moment in Hong Kong for that kind of standard. All the thing is voluntary. So, unfortunately, say in some community, the oncology centers, some of them, they don't need any aseptic setting. So this is kind of difference in Hong Kong. And as a pharmacist, we do believe, to reconstitute the chemotherapy products, we need to do in the aseptic room, and to make sure the product is there's no any bacteria in the product, isn't it? You make sure it's clean and is good quality for the patient to receive this chemotherapy, I think. But because the patient, they don't know, unfortunately, this is kind of problem. The patients, they don't know, the chemotherapy product need to be made in the aseptic room, so they don't see the difference. And so even, because some of the private oncologists, because they are famous, they are, they got good promotion, good advertising, that kind of thing. They earn a lot of money as well, and they're selling the product. Selling is expensive as well. But in our point of view, in pharmacy point of view, their product is not septic. They're not clean enough to infuse, and but the patient doesn't know. But in Hong Kong government hospital, we do have a good pharmacists together to ensure the quality of these chemotherapy products for the patients. So this is kind of thing in Hong Kong need to have some development, and this is kind of thing I hope as an oncology pharmacist can ensure all the patients have good quality chemotherapy products as well.
Okay, yeah, right. Got a question in from Demiana, student. It's for Mina. It's about owning your pharmacy. So how were you able to grasp the understanding of the business aspect? And also, why have you chosen to upgrade to a doctor? So, yeah. Do you want to?
Yeah. Thank you, Damina, for the question. I think in terms of grasping pharmacy ownership and your role, I think there's something that I really do firmly believe in any aspect of pharmacy is you learn as you go. Just jump in and you'll figure it out. And I think that's true for most roles. I mean, just don't harm patients. Figure it out before that any of that might happen. Learn what you're supposed to do first. But there's definitely opportunity wherever you are to learn as you're going. Like no one's gonna force you into a position where someone will get hurt, and that's very, very important, especially in pharmacy. Is a big part of our role is to avoid patient harm, right? So in terms of managing a pharmacy, I jumped in and I had no idea what I was doing, and I think that's okay, right? You learn as you go. Within a couple of days, you figure it out. A few sleepless nights or a few weeks of sleepless nights, figuring out what's going on, staying up late, and learning what your role is okay. And nothing is going to give you as much pressure to figure out what you have to know, like doing it. So I think from that point of view, definitely jump in, and if that's something that you're thinking about, I do have to warn you, really do a bit of demographic analyses before you open up. In Canada, the pharmacy market is like, it sucks for retail stores. There's a pharmacy on every corner. In the town that I'm currently speaking to you from, I'm in Milton, Ontario. 3 pharmacies have closed down during COVID. Like they're everywhere. It's a bit more than I think a lot of independents think they can handle. So just bear that in mind. But if you find a good spot and you think it's worth doing, jump in. Email me. I'll partner with you. But yeah, I mean, jumping in is definitely a big part of it. And I think you were asking why I'm choosing to upgrade to a doctor of pharmacy degree. In Ontario, I foresee that in the next 2 to 3 years, pharmacists with qualifications or credentials may be allowed to prescribe. So that's kind of my thinking, at least from like the academic point of view. These are the rumors. So it's definitely good to keep your ears to the ground, especially in wherever you plan to practice. And it seems like something worth doing for me. And I enjoy it. I really do enjoy being able to provide a clinical service in my pharmacies. A lot of pharmacies don't offer it well anywhere, but in Canada in particular, in my experience, there are a lot of technical pharmacies where you're really lacking in care. So that's one of the bigger reasons why I chose to do it, so that I can keep up. And it's like doing a ton of continuing educations, but this way I get a degree at the end of it.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, well, I'm conscious of the time, so really, I think we're going to have to close this now. So thanks everyone for your questions, and thanks to the speakers for answering the questions. And I think really what we've had, all 3 speakers really providing a vision, inspiration, a go-get-it attitude, and don't give up attitude kind of thing, and it's been great, and you really do show what can be done by grabbing opportunities when they come along, I think. So thanks for that, and really thanks for behind the scenes. There's the Rachel, Alina, Lauren, and the Alumni development office at Sunderland who have helped put this together. I'm sure it's not going to be the first time we do this now, because with technology as it is, it can be done, and I think it's great.
Paul, hello, sorry, Paul. After
yeah.
we will stop suddenly, I'd like to say some word, and I'm sorry to disturb you, because in Sunderland, University of Sunderland, we do have lots of good lecturers, tutors, and like you and like a lot of people. I do miss them. Because as a foreigner student, I've been feel very warm in University of Sunderland. I love this university. I've been a good time in this university. I've been looked after very well when I was in University of Sunderland, in particular, lots of good lecturers and tutors. In this opportunity, I hope I'm sorry to use your platform to thank some of the good tutors and lecturers, as particular someone I do miss and respect a lot, and like Dr. Rose Anderson, as Matthew say, she's a lovely person. You know, she teach me since first year chemistry. I know she look up to me as well. She's my well, the dissertation, you know, final year project tutor as well. She passed away, unfortunately, a few years ago. And you know, I do, you know, want to use this platform to thank her. And another person, Dr. Wesley, and she just passed away as well. Just, you know, I think a few days ago. And he is a very kind person to me as well. He helped me to do some study, and you know, he to give us some well, extra tutorial as well, and you know, to help us to pass our exams, you know. So well, you know, I feel sad, you know, he passed away. And
okay, well, thanks, Kam. Thanks for that. Yeah, it's well, I'm pleased. I mean, this is what the alumni is all about, keeping in touch. It's keeping in touch with graduates, and then you can come back and help, like you're doing today, and that's great. We're going to have to bring it to a close now. So again, thanks, and thanks to the audience as well. Thank you for attending. And so thanks all around, and that's it. So enjoy the rest of your day, everybody, and thanks for everything.
Thanks, Paul. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.